live at last. Happy Tuesday, everybody, and happy belated Labor Day. It is I, Jax, your friendly neighborhood fantasy writer slash dragon and bee enthusiast, coming at you live on YouTube with the Night Rights. If this is your very first Night Rights, welcome, welcome. Come in and say hello, and by that I mean click the link if you're on Blue Sky. We do have an open chat where you can type things in to your heart's content, so long as it doesn't violate YouTube's TOS. Be chill with each other and just be cool. I will raid your stuff aloud and comment on them, and that is how we will chat all night long. And by all night long, I really do mean all night long. Usually these run until about 11 p.m. to midnight. The first half hour is just going to be vibing for us. We like to let people filter in and say hello. If you're a little bit of an introvert, no worries. We understand you. You're among people right here. That is why we have an icebreaker. That is a writing question or prompt, or just in general something to think about with your work in progress. You'll see it on the left side of your screen above the giant timer. That tonight's icebreaker is going to be short and sweet. Show us the first line of your work in progress of choice. It doesn't have to be the one that you're working on right now, or it could be the one that you're working on right now, whichever works for you. I'll read mine aloud as soon as I'm done vibing with you and reading off all the rules, by which I mean I'm not reading anything at all. Please excuse the energy that I'm giving off right now. It is a fun night, and I've had kind of, sort of enough sleep. Not really. Anyway, first sprint, as I've mentioned on Blue Sky, it will begin at 9 p.m. That is less than a half an hour from now. And the way these work is you see that little timer on the bottom left of your screen, the one that says 20 minutes. That is 20 minutes for you to do whatever you feel like, so long as it's productive. It doesn't have to be writing. I call it a word sprint, but it's one in name only. For writers, it's pretty easy. You just write. For editors, edit. And for anybody else, you can do literally anything else. I have had crafters, I have had knitters, I have had people playing video games. I've even had people just take power naps. Whatever you feel would be a good use of those 20 minutes, go ahead and engage with those 20 minutes. At the end of those 20 minutes, we pause and share with each other how we're doing. Then we take the time to celebrate, shoot the shit for about 15 plus minutes, and then launch into our second and third sprint of the night. So we do this 3 times. That is 3 20-minute sprints. At the end of it, we just at the very end of the night, you'll get the usual update and spiel, and I let you back out into the world. So you see, it's pretty chill, pretty easy here. We like to hang out and vibe. But in any case, currently it is 8:37, so it will be another 20 minutes before that first sprint. So if you've just joined us, come in, say hello, tell us a little bit about yourself if you're brand new. Tell us a bit about your work in progress also if you're brand new. Don't be shy, we're all cool peeps here. Normally we do have some regulars, but it is just me for tonight, so you will get to hear me ramble. On that note, I do have an icebreaker, and I do have fun things to ramble about in the absence of friends. The icebreaker for tonight is, it's all in celebration of the fact that I finally begun the 6th draft of my work in progress. It does feel a little bit weird to say that's draft number 6, and I'm starting it from scratch essentially. But that's what happens whenever you write a shit draft and betas kind of rip you a new one for it. Lesson learned, kids. If you're going to do something really stupid like try to write an entire novel in a year from literally trash draft to finish, be prepared that you're going to be told that it really sucks. In any case, technically it's alright, I'll give myself a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I actually started writing the Nameless song, which is what you see on your screen, way back in, I want to say 2022? 2022 just sounds about right. So 2022 was the very first trash draft. Then it was followed very shortly thereafter by a draft 2, which was only partially complete. Then I wrote The Infinite Sadness, which if you are signed up to my newsletter, you should be receiving every Thursday. Followed by a draft 3, draft 4, and draft 5. The fifth draft, so draft 3, 4, and 5 were the ones that were written in the span of a year. And draft 5 is the one that was given to beta readers, and beta readers were like, there are some really good ideas here, but we're going to have to say no to this. So that is why I am back at square one, and we're going to see how this goes. Sometimes, you know, you just have to go through a bunch of drafts until you find... okay, actually, it was draft 5 that was the trash draft. There were so many drafts. I don't even know. But in any case, the point is, sometimes you have to go through a whole bunch of different iterations of the same idea before you can find one that you settle on. Is there such a thing as saying, okay, you've used up all your ideas, this one just will not work no matter what you do with it? Yes, there is such a thing as no matter how much you try to tweak it, the idea just won't fly. I feel like that is a very difficult thing for an author to decide on, and it really comes down to a case-by-case basis. And it's really, ultimately, when I say case-by-case, I mean it is up to the author. Essentially, if the author believes that they cannot bring an idea to fruition in a way that satisfies them, that they feel is good enough, quote unquote, for their audience, then that is the point where they're like, okay, I'm going to just have to shelf this project forever. Have I ever done a project that was like that? Also, yes. There are countless projects, especially when I used to do fan fiction, where I would write them and I'd get to some kind of point where I just felt like it was just not workable at all, and I felt like I couldn't take it to a place where it would work. So that's when I just put it on the shelf and stopped thinking about it. And there are ideas from that shelf that I was like, yeah, I would love to bring that into an original fiction realm, and maybe I might have toyed with it, and I just put it back on the shelf because it just did not work. The most famous of that, I say the most famous of that, but none of my ideas are famous at all, but probably the one idea that I can think of where there were actually people who were expecting me to follow through on it, people were following the idea and so on, but it just fell through, was this project called Anima. But it just does not work in original fiction context, and the fan fiction, it had its fans, it had its readers, but I feel like I would not be able to continue that fan fiction today. So that is permanently on the shelf, or at least on the shelf for the time being. Who knows, maybe down the line I'll come up with splash inspiration and feel like I can take it somewhere. But in any case, the Nameless song is not one of these ideas. Yes, it went through 6 drafts already, but I feel like there is still a direction that I can take it. So this is probably one of the last directions that I can take it, and I feel like the best way to put it is you don't know if you're going to fail until you fail. So you put the idea on paper, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. In other words, this is the 6th draft. I can't say for certain if it'll be better than drafts 1 through 5, but that's because I haven't written it yet. So we're going to see where it goes. Could it be a folly? Possibly. Could it not be a folly? Who knows? But in any case, just one quick check on something. Okay, yeah, we are all set. But in any case, the icebreaker for tonight. That was this entire ramble. I am excited about launching into this next draft. I really do want to see where all these ideas go, especially because this is the draft where I introduced the bee people in it, and I do love working on the bee people. Blue Sky apparently keeps on enabling me to talk about the bee people, so I do want to show the bee people in action with dragons and all kinds of other stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So honestly, I'm a little bit nervous about going into this next draft, draft number 6, because obviously, especially since the feedback to drafts number 4, as we've established just a moment ago, was not really great. But, you know, we'll see. In any case, to answer the icebreaker of the night, I will read off the first line of this draft, and that is, Mick Martin was halfway through writing the words Vibin when an 8-foot-tall rock golem rampaged after a rooster down the street just beyond the terrace of his family's cafe. He paused, pen at the top of the used right leg, amber eyes following the chase, and then he sighed. Overall, you know, I do love, shockingly, like, I've only started the thing technically yesterday in earnest. The first line has been written for months. I wrote it specifically for first line pitch. I don't remember when that was. It was months and months ago that there was a pitch event that centered around the first lines of your draft, of your work in progress. So I wanted to participate in it, so I had the trash draft, and I was like, okay, I'm going to just write this first paragraph. So for the past several months, I only had one paragraph of this draft. But yesterday and this morning, I just launched into the rest of what you see on your screen. And it's not the best. I feel like it's still a little bit long. It was over 1,000 words when I left off last night, and it's probably up to 1,300 by now. And which only matters because, you know, you have to play smart with your word count, especially if you're thinking about querying. But nonetheless, like, it feels like I'm finally getting back into character with Mick, at least. Because the problem with writing a trash draft is that the way that I wrote it is dialogue only, just dialogue, stage direction, quick sketches, which is great for a trash draft. The downside is when you have an introspective character, or when you just in general, it's often difficult to feel like you have your characters down with a trash draft like that. You're not letting, in my opinion, you're not really letting your characters fully bloom, especially if you have those introspective characters. You are confining yourself only to dialogue and very brief sketches. The entire point is that you get the general skeleton on paper, and yes, that is something that I was able to achieve with the trash draft, but quite honestly, these are the bits that I enjoy more, the part where I flesh things out and let my character think for a moment and breathe. So letting Mick do that has been a lot like, it felt like coming home in a way. Not to be dramatic about it, but I liked getting back into Mick's head, and he's not like the Infinite Sadness is Mick. For those of you who don't know, the Infinite Sadness is a 90s AU that I wrote for fun just to kind of like hype myself up for another draft. But that one's Mick is melancholy, very emotionally stunted because he's depriving himself of his dreams and whatnot. This one is very interesting because he's a lot more capable of pretending like everything's a-okay. Whereas the Infinite Sadness, says Mick, is just like not really cynical, but very wears his heart on his sleeve more than he thinks he does. He's very depressed, and it's very obvious. Shockingly, he's capable of customer service, but at the same time, he is also very tired about his job, and so on and so forth. This one, the Nameless Songs Mick, wants to believe that he's responsible for everything. Like, his siblings in the scene expect him to do his job perfectly or come up with the solution to everything because that's what he's always been expected to do since he was a kid. That's why he's head waiter at the age of 23. So he's kind of used to coming up with solutions and rallying people together, and he's not even fully conscious of it. And these are the qualities that make him an excellent leader for the Dragons later on. By the way, there's going to be a new term for that. So it'll be super interesting to watch how all these traits play out and how all of these things I establish in Chapter 1 get drawn out, and he's forced to acknowledge that yes, he's actually good at something besides being everybody else's support, or he is good at being everybody else's support, but that's what makes him an excellent leader. That's what makes him an all-around, like, something more than just a doormat, you know what I mean? So, like, I don't know, like, I'm just super excited about this iteration, and I'm delighted. And it is still very quiet in chat, I do have to admit, so if you are lurking, feel free to say hi. God, I hope I set up today's stream correctly, because it would be very embarrassing if none of you could actually chat with me. If there is something up with the stream, feel free to chat with me on Blue Sky, drop in or reply. I am refreshing here and there. Also, apologies to the people who are waiting on replies over there. It's been a day. Strangely, like, whenever it's slower in work, I always feel like I have to come up with something to do. So I've been kind of buzzing around like a little bee all day long. Then I didn't really give myself too much of a break afterwards. So it's been interesting, but I'm finally here and ready to settle down and write. But we do have 8 more minutes to go, so I suppose it will just be a little bit of a vibe right now, but we'll see. I think that the last thing is you'll notice that I am back on Scrivener. For those of you who are following me on Blue Sky, I did try Ellipsis, but there's just something about it. It's not bad of a program, but something about it rubs me the wrong way. It just feels slower and laggier. And I also am not a huge fan of the fact that you can create alternate drafts and possibly put different chapters there, but I like what I like to do, and you can kind of sort of see it possibly on your screen right now, but basically what I am so used to doing is breaking my chapters up into different documents and then, sorting everything into different folders by chapter and so forth, so that I'm only looking at a small piece of the story at a time. And for me, that's a lot easier to work with. Not only because the program or what I'm working on loads a lot faster in my weird brain, I suppose, but also because it's just easier to sort through different stages. Like I can take a scene that's not quite working and I can toss it into a scrap folder, or I can say, oh, hey, I know that this scene happens in this chapter, so I can navigate directly to that chapter. Whereas with Ellipsis, what they're trying to do is encourage you to write your entire thing in one long document, which doesn't quite work. It seems and feels more like it's designed for people who are posting things online, like especially to AO3 or Wattpad. And so it will probably work better as that. But for my needs, like I want to have this book and export it to DOCX so that I can ship it off to betas. I want to be able to export it to different files I can then plug into InDesign if I, or whatever I'm going to be using as an InDesign replacement if I want to design a book myself. It's all around, it just feels a lot easier to work with Scrivener. So yeah, that's my quickie review of Ellipsis. It's not bad. It is definitely a better alternative to Google Docs, and in my opinion, one of the better online writers to use if you're intending on sharing it with other people. But it just feels a little bit too clunky for me to use. That's ultimately what it is, sadly. Anyway, it is 8:56. We will probably dive directly into our first sprint in just a moment. So, again, if you're lurking, feel free to drop into the chat and say hi. If you're not lurking, this night will probably go by very quickly because nobody's encouraging me to fuck around and blab on about my special interests. Which is to say, there will probably be a B chat somewhere along the lines in the night, but other than that, it is just going to be me vibing with my writing and my opinions. So, just drop into the chat if you want to chat with me. If not, no worries, continue to vibe. I'm going to give my voice a quick rest, and I will see you at 9 on the dot to do the first sprint. So it is 9 p.m. on the dot. That means our first sprint is just about to begin. So if you aren't already onto your documents, get to your documents. We're going to take a quick deep breath just to relax ourselves and prepare ourselves. Shake out the wrists and flex those fingers because you will be doing a lot of word smashing in just a second. All right, 20 minutes are on the clock. I wish you the best of luck. I will see you on the other side. Get ready, get set, and here we go. All right, that's the first that is the first of 3 sprints done. Let me just finish this one sentence. Well, actually, you know what? How did we do anyway? For me, it's only 359 words, but then again, I have been stopping and starting mostly because I do not like writing action scenes all that much. It's kind of funny because I used to be all about those. I was in a fandom that was 90% you write action scenes. But I guess it's just because I wrote so many of them back then that I just can't. They just kind of like, they're not the most fun for me to write. Granted, I do like toying with cause and effect and the emotional tension of a fight scene and the visuals of a fight scene and so on and so forth. I like doing the choreography of one, but putting it into words is a lot harder, especially when I don't have half of the fight written down. So just quick second and I will explain what I mean after I finish the sentence, because I do not like to pause in the middle of the sentence anyway. Okay, so like I was saying, I don't have a lot of this scene written, and the reason why I say that is because there's a song that's supposed to be in the middle of the scene, but unfortunately, I don't have that song written down. I do have the tune in mind, kind of, sort of. If you have been following me on Blue Sky, you know that certain very important songs I do have the tune for, but only because I have based them off of other songs. I am not a composer of any sort. I am not really all that much of a musician. The last time I had picked up an instrument of any sort was whenever I was like 14 and I was taking singing lessons. But, you know, whatever. So, ironically, I can't really compose music. I also am moderately okay with rhyming poetry. And the song in question is a ballad. So that requires a very specific meter that goes to a very specific tune. And I'm not good at rhyming poetry. I'm not even gonna lie. My poetry of choice is actually free verse. I can definitely tell you all kinds of fun stuff about beat poetry. That is my favorite flavor. I have written plenty of free verse poetry. I used to compete as a teenager writing free verse poetry in regional competitions. I've had free verse poetry published and so on and so forth. Way back when I was a teenager and into a little bit into college. But we're not going to talk about that because it was all sucky and under dead names. But anyway, point is, I don't really have a lot of faith in myself in writing a song. And there's going to be a song that's important to this story, especially about this scene. So, oops. But in any case, writing this fight scene when there's supposed to be a song that's playing during it is a bit of a trip. There is placeholder text that I have included. That is the comment that you see up there. But we're just basically fucking around and finding out right now. So yeah, that is the progress update of the moment. In any case, usually this is the part where I launch off into a tangent, but it does feel a little bit awkward to do it on my own. So we're probably not going to do too much about that, so instead I will tell you about what these breaks are usually used for. We do the Pomodoro method. in these streams. And what that means is you're given a set amount of time, and then you're supposed to take breaks between each one. So that is also why I talk a lot during these, because I am sure that it's very difficult to sit there and listen to somebody ramble on about these. And the theory is that you can't really write in huge chunks, or you could, but that is a good way to burn yourself out. So what the Pomodoro method encourages is that you get up and you go and let yourself rest for a little bit before you start in on the next one. So you get more done because you're breaking up what you're doing. So right now, these breaks, normally they're a little bit shorter. You did see a short break timer, but I don't like to use it out that often because I like to ramble on, as you know. But the idea is that you take a break, you get up from your computer, or you get up from wherever you're sitting and writing, and you go and you check in on yourself. So check in on yourself. Do you have enough water / beverage to last through the next sprint? Have you, do you need to go up and walk around a little bit to stretch your legs a little bit? Because, so if you're able-bodied, you might need to do that. Do you need to go use the bathroom? Go and use the bathroom. Just do whatever it is you feel most comfortable doing, but make sure that you give yourself a little bit of a break. Rest is very important for writers, and that is something that it's just important in general if you're a human being. Like, nobody is designed to work 24/7, which is the communist sentiment of the day, I guess. Happy Labor Day, But in all seriousness, like, our society is structured in such a way that we're encouraged to hammer ourselves into the ground in order to make our dreams come true. And by that, I mean actually be that obedient little cog in a wheel to make other people's dreams come true. Ultimately speaking, that is not a sustainable way to live. You will break yourself, and if you don't break yourself, you will spend quite a long time unhappy. And one thing that I've realized in my adult life is that you can spend and sacrifice as much as you want, but you're just going to be in the exact same place as everyone else at the end of the day. And I say that because in reality, you can work hard, you can sacrifice, you can spend hours upon hours at your job, at your 9 to 5, but ultimately, what does that get you, right? And I guess it's a little bit cynical for me to say that, but I know what my retirement fund looks like. It's kind of sad looking. My point is, actually, I will say this also, like, it's something that I really learned in the publishing industry when I still really leaned into it. I'm still applying for jobs and whatnot in the publishing industry, but at the same time, I've watched so many very talented people who have spent years upon years at companies just get booted out with only a severance package as any sort of acknowledgement for the amount of work that they put and the amount of hours that they have sacrificed to their company. And having had that experience myself and having watched so many of my colleagues go through that, I've come to realize that work is an unfortunate necessity for day-to-day life. You do have to put in the minimum in order to keep yourself alive, unfortunately, unless you manage it, to get to get some kind of help. But for the vast majority of us, you know, it's all we're kind of slaves to the grind, unfortunately. But putting in more than that with the idea that you will eventually move up is a dream that has gone obsolete. So my main point is, when you're working, you have to think about your own patterns. And that includes when you're working for yourself. Don't put your nose to the grindstone and grind yourself into the ground, because that doesn't get you any further than where you would have gotten if you just were kinder to yourself. So when in the context of a 9 to 5, I mean it in a bleaker sense, because there's no point in grinding yourself into the ground, because you're never going to get the acknowledgement that you're hoping for. 9 times out of 10 anyway, you're never going to get the acknowledgement that you're hoping for. You might get a smaller raise, you might get a title, if you claw your way one way or another, but for the most part, usually it's just that you're going to put in a lot of work and you're probably not going to get too much acknowledgement for it. But when it comes to writing, you also don't want to grind yourself into the ground, because you're not going to get to your dreams any faster, and people are not going to buy your books in any more droves, if you know what I mean. It's somebody had recently told me that hyping yourself up relies a lot on luck. There's like, you could try to follow a formula for it, and they meant it in a different context. Like, you know, I was worried about, if I don't do one specific thing, am I shooting myself in the foot? And the answer is no, because oftentimes marketing comes down to luck. You know, somebody of the right sort notices your book, and all of a sudden, and with one good word, you're suddenly right place, right time. You sell a lot of books. I think the Audra Wintry, we all have heard of her, right? The Age of Scorpius one. Audra Winters, I'm sorry. Audra Winters, Alex Astor, that kind of thing. They went viral with one video and had all the luck and whatnot. Late Lark became a huge deal just thanks to one Vibe video. Audra Winters went into infamy just from one Vibe video. Like, it wasn't because of their connections exactly, it was just because they just happened to hit on that one vibe that TikTok wanted right then and there. But the main point is, like, it's more like that, you know? Sure, being rich, like Alex Astor, offers some advantage because you have more time to write. You have more time to develop your marketing materials. You have more resources that you can buy, the fancy tools that you need to pump out those marketing graphics and videos that catch everyone's attention. But ultimately, like, anybody can hit the right note and launch at any time. So, like, it's not necessarily about you grinding yourself into the ground. It's more about you doing something in a way that feels comfortable and right to you, and producing a work that you're satisfied with. That having been said, you will not produce a work that's satisfying for you if you fucking burn yourself out. So take those breaks for sure. That is the lesson of the day. As we come up to the very end of this break. There we go. But yeah, like I was saying, the lesson of the day is don't wear yourself out. Like, I know that I should say, I'm like preaching, not preaching in the choir, but like I'm kind of a hypocrite because I often burn myself out. I'm always doing something, even, and I don't acknowledge myself and my efforts all that often, which is why I am constantly tired. But, you know, I'm always better at dispensing advice than taking my own. So don't be like me. Let yourself rest. Take those breaks. Get some fucking water. Make sure that you've gone to the bathroom. You can definitely miss the first 2 minutes of the next sprint, which will be starting in just a second. So, that having been said, sprint number 2, we are at 9:37. That means we're hitting it up at 9:50. This is gonna go by quickly, so that's gonna be cool. I would like to have some time at the very end of the day to do other things than just stream, so that's pretty cool. In any case, have you come back with water? Have you taken yourself out to relieve yourself? Have you taken care of your pets too? Those of you with dogs, please let them out and let them go and take care of themselves. It's been a while. I see you. I see all of you. Um, but anyway, I do have my tea here. It is cold tea, but it is still decent tea. And there are 20 minutes on the clock. So let me just take this quick sip. You, meanwhile, go and prepare yourselves, whatever that means, to embark on the next sprint. All right. With that having been said, 20 minutes are on the clock. Get ready, get set, and go. that is the second spree done. How did we do? How did we do? Let's see. I think I was here, so that's 535 words. Not, it's 486. Either way, better than the last sprint, which is not too bad. We're about halfway through the chapter too, so that's not bad at all. Anyway, let me set up a long break. You know what to do. Get up, go get some water, go stretch your legs a little bit if you need to. Go to the bathroom, just in general, get up from your desk. Move away from the desk at least. Go and take that break. Relax. How was your weekend, by the way? Was it particularly relaxing or not? Mine went by way too fast. I have not fixed my sleep schedule, and in fact, yesterday I murdered it completely. Because my friend is delightful, and I love him, but also completely character. And long story short, I was up and out of the apartment at 8 a.m. and I did not return until 8 p.m. And most of that was spent walking and wandering around the city. And that's fine, but I've also realized that I'm getting older perhaps, or my sleep schedule hasn't been getting great, or I need to fix my diet, or one of many other things I refuse to see a doctor for because I don't know, I've had bad experiences with doctors shuttling from one to another to find diagnoses and never fully answers. But you know how it is. But in any case, I have noticed that fatigue happens more often than it used to for me. So a full day out in the city when I was like pre-pandemic, it would have been no big deal. You know, I used to walk all over the place, and even then, it was like nothing compared to what I used to do 10 years ago when I lived in Boston, and it would be a regular occurrence where I'd walk from like Davis Square in Cambridge all the way down to Boston Common for fun, and because I had nothing better to do. I can't really do that anymore, I've noticed. I really don't know what it is, but in any case, walking takes a lot out of me. Full days of adventures, I usually have to sleep a little bit, and even walking around here, walking around my neighborhood, sometimes I have to take a long nap afterwards. Today was one of those days. That's actually what I was doing before the stream, between work and stream. I went out for a lengthy walk, and even then I felt like I hadn't fully recovered from yesterday. So I did that, then, took care of myself afterwards, showered, dinner, that kind of thing, and immediately conked out for an hour. And it's also kind of why I'm a little bit glad that it's just me in the stream. Nobody fully enabling me to go off on tangents and whatnot, because that means that I'll wrap up the stream at a reasonable hour, which means that I'll be able to wind down faster. Whether or not I do is a completely different story. Now, I will say that probably once I'm done with the stream, I'm going to be kind to myself and not do more writing. As much as I want to, it would be kind of incredible if I managed to get a chapter done within the first couple of days of starting this draft. But I did do a writing session early this morning. I woke up around 7:30, sat down and wrote. And that's going to be my schedule from now until whenever. Basically, as the weather gets colder and going out for walks becomes less productive, I want to say. Like in the summer months, I would take my notebook and go to one of the several nearby parks, sit down and write for that entire hour, or I'd go to a coffee house. But you can't go to a coffee house every day, and there you can't really go to a park if it's like snowing or doing the autumn rain thing. So instead, as we get into the colder months and as I get deeper into this draft, my routine is probably going to be wake up, do some writing, start work, then after work do my annual daily walk, and general get some fresh air, and then do evening writing. And we're going to keep on repeating this until the draft is done. And as I've mentioned in my newsletter, which you should definitely sign up for, the newsletter is pretty simple. It's just monthly updates, long form updates about where I am with drafts, what my thoughts are on it, what my immediate future plans are, what to expect, and so on. Or it's like writing that you're not going to see anywhere else. So like short stories, snippets, scenes that I tossed out, uh, all kinds of other fun stuff. That the writing's subscriber only, so you have to be subscribed and signed in order to view that, or you have to actually have the email in your email client to read it. The updates are free for everybody, so definitely check out my Beehive. But in any case, as I've mentioned in my newsletter, I am not going to be doing what I did with Draft 4, by which I mean I'm not going to be writing a full draft within a year. This is going to come as comes. I'm going to write as much as I see fit within a time frame that I see fit. And it's going to be, in short, done when it's done. And I'm going to be kind to myself about that. Because, like, I do admit one of my bad habits is I look at other people and I compare my progress to other people. And that is something that's dangerous and not something that you should be doing. But I know of people who have started writing the same year that I started taking myself seriously as well. And they're already like up to, they've already got like 3 books, 4 books, 5 books, 6 books out. And I'm still working on the first one that I want to have published. And it's like, ultimately, I know intellectually that every writer's path looks different. There are threads on Blue Sky these days that are like, the average age for somebody who puts out their debut novel is 40 years old. And I've mentioned this in past streams, but I want to continue reiterating that my main point is I always feel like I've wasted a lot of time. I've worked hard on writing that never got published the way that I want to. I've done a lot of fan fiction that I've published for free. I've done a lot of original work that's been published, quote unquote, for free on blogs and in my own newsletter, but nothing like submitting to a magazine and getting it published or getting a book published, nothing like that. Or even like self-publishing, I haven't done that either. I've been meaning to do it for most of my adult life. Actually, since I was 14, I wanted to do that, but I've never been able to do it. And lately I've felt like I've been wasting my time. But like I said, there's a lot of talk about how every writer's path is different, and that's why it's a huge reassurance whenever those threads pop up, because then you'll have like people being like, oh yeah, I was 40 years old when I published my first novel, or I was in my 50s when I published my first novel, because like it feels less like I have missed a milestone, you know? Because, like, when you have all these people who are like, yeah, I was 30 when I published my first novel. I got started late too, hee hee. No, you didn't. Okay, I'm sorry, but you didn't. You. When we talk about art, we often look to, we often frame things these days as 30 is late. And it's so weird to me because 20s are like prodigy age. You've just barely gotten your shit together and already you've done a lot of creative stuff. And I feel like also that the internet isn't really helping with that because on the internet you have all these people who are like putting out their work and making their side hustles happen. Uh, and they're like 14 or something like that. They're children. But like, so I feel like we have created this generation where we're conditioned to think that if the norm is you're getting your shit together, getting your side hustles together when you're young. So that's why we glorify people like Alex Astor, who's like not not glorify. I keep on shitting on Alex Astor, but like your mileage may vary with books, with her books. Personally, I don't care for how she Instagrammed. It basically made writing Instagrammable, where she went on about how she was living the dream author's life and whatnot, and it's like, it's the Instagram influencer mentality just brought into art, and it's like, eh. But in any case, the point is, we've started to think that it's normal to be in your 20s and having your shit together and making money on these side hustles. So we've started to think that if you're 30, then you're old, essentially. I guess also it's fandom that kind of makes you feel like that too. I don't know. I'm sure that somebody understands what I mean, but like, you know how in fandom spaces you'll have people who are like, oh, 30 is so old and whatnot. No, it's not. It's like 30 is the beginning, the true beginning of your adulthood. It's, you spend your 20s trying to figure your shit out. Early 20s is when you've just graduated from high school. You're stumbling in the very shortly thereafter. If you're in college, like, you fuck around and find out. If you're not in college, then you fuck around and find out, but there's like no, but you're kind of on your own while doing it, you know. By your mid 20s, like, you're usually just starting independent life. You might move out for the first time. You might be realizing, oh, adulthood is a lot more complicated and harder than you thought your parents made it seem, you know? And then your late 20s, you're kind of sort of starting to find the groove. But your 30s is when, generally speaking, you've had enough years in the adulthood phase that you're like, okay, I kind of can start to navigate, right? So if you're publishing in your 30s, you're not old. You just happen to find enough of a groove with everything else in your life to be able to sit down and finally do the thing. It's when you haven't reached that part that things start getting complicated, I think. And that's where I am in my life. I'm in my 30s, so it's like I've gotten past the awkwardness of the second adolescence with my 20s, and I've got into my 30s where I should have had all this shit figured out, and I don't. And that is why I haven't gotten a book published. Um, but I don't know, like I keep making excuses for myself. The point that I've been trying to make is that this book is going to be finished when it's finished, and I'm going to be. One of the goals I have while writing this is not just to get this draft done, but it's also to be kinder to myself, to stop worrying about deadlines so much. Ironically, even though, excuse me, ironically, even though deadlines are something that a writer has to think about eventually, like if you're traditionally published, you're going to have a new set of deadlines. Your agent and editor are going to expect the next book from you at some point. Uh, if you're self-published, I have read advice from the people who have published way more fiction than I have in these past few years that we've been writing essentially at the same time. That if you're writing certain genres, you're expected to put out a new book every few months, which is absolutely infuriating to think about, but also makes a lot of sense because, like, in this day and age with an inundated market, you're trying to be relevant, so you're trying to keep your name relevant. If you start slacking off or start producing like nothing new, then you fall behind essentially. You start fading into the background. Um, Ironically, this is something that I've seen happen with some of my indie author friends from Tumblr, where we used to talk about them all the time, and all of a sudden, like, you go to other platforms and I don't hear anything about them. And it's a little bit sad, but like, they haven't really produced anything. And it's infuriating also because we're also treating books like content, like a disposable fast fashion, you know? Like, it's less about creating art and appreciating the artist and being patient with artists that you care about and waiting for the next release. It's more about demanding that the next book be out and ready and consumable within a certain time frame or you're going to forget about them. It's like, why? It didn't used to be like this, I feel like. But here we are, I suppose. And the older that I get, the more I understand why George R.R. Martin fucked off. So there's that. But my main point, as I keep on saying, is I'm going to let the book come as it comes, and I'm going to be kinder about myself as I'm writing it. I'm not going to push myself too hard to get it done within a certain time frame. I'm not going to feel like I'm wasting my time or that I'm missing a certain window. I want this book to be done right, and it takes more time to fuck it up but get it done fast, ironically, than it does to sit down, take my time, and produce something that's worth reading. So we'll see where this goes. But in any case, that is the end of the next break. I hope that gave you enough time to do what you need to do, to rest, to get more water, and you should be hydrating one way or another. Please don't dehydrate yourselves. And I do apologize for the depression posting in talk format. But you know, is what is. There are things that I just need to get off my chest, and things that might be of interest to you. Things about what I'm doing that, for those of you who are following and waiting for the Dragon book with the Beeple in it, this is what to expect. I will not leave you in the lurch. There will be content coming out on my Blue Sky and newsletter, and you can read snippets if you're following these streams and squint really hard at was probably a really shitty quality of shitty video quality right now. Uh, just word of warning, everything that you see on your screen right now is just a rough draft. So we don't know what it's going to look like afterwards. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a surprise for everybody. But point is, these are the things that you can expect. I have high hopes for where we're going. But, I'm going to take my time with it. Anyway. I had to pause because I could see the reflection of the moon in my neighbor's window. And I cannot see the moon right now. That is sad. That's the only downside of this apartment. Like, it's got a north-facing window, and sucks whenever you're, like, a person who likes sunsets and sunrise. Well, not so much sunrises, but you know what I mean. Sunset. I can't see the sunset. I can't see the moon. I am languishing in my north-facing apartment. First world problems, hashtag. But in any case, 20 minutes are on the clock. If you wandered away from your manuscript, I suggest you get back to them now because we are going into our third and final sprint in just a second. And it is 10:20, which means that our last one's going to wrap up at 10:40. That's nice. So, 20 minutes are on the clock. Deep breath in. Let it out. And I will see you on the other side. Get ready, get set, and go. that is the last sprint. How did we do? For me, that would be 355 if we ignore that paragraph that I added in a little bit further up, which is not super bad at all. I'm well on my way, and I lied. I will probably do a little bit of work just to finish off a thought. But in any case, here's the part of the show where we all start winding down and I give you updates on what to expect. I do hope that all of you had an excellent time and that you were very productive on these 3 sprints of the night. And of course, thank you also for coming and dropping in. Now, I will say this just as a little bit of a confession. Unfortunately, next week I'm going to have to skip. And that's because I have family in town from the 9th until I do believe the 12th. However, I am going to make it up for to by moving that stream from the 9th to the evening of the 12th. So, in other words, no stream next Tuesday. We are going to do one of what I hope will be the few breaks in our pattern for a long while. No stream next Tuesday, but yes, stream on Friday. And there might be other streams as well. I do foresee a pretty light looking schedule. And of course, I do want to continue with the shenanigans on this draft because I'm starting to feel a decent pace and I'm starting to feel a little bit confident with it. So you might see another stream. Specifically, I'd say maybe 5th. Usually weekends are a little bit wonky for me. So keep an eye on Blue Sky for any further announcements. If I drop in a hey, surprise, we're having a stream tonight, I'll make that post in the afternoon on Blue Sky. Alternatively, hit that bell, the little bell, as the cliche goes on YouTube. The little bell will notify you of any new streams and posts. So either one, either subscribe to or either follow me on Blue Sky or hit that little subscription bell to get notifications. Either way, I will for sure see you not next week again. No stream on Tuesday, but yes, stream on Friday. So that means not this Friday the 5th. That is a maybe. Next stream will very likely be Friday on the 12th. I apologize for the length in time that we're going between streams. It is what it is, you know. I can't really say no to seeing my family, especially since it is going. They are basically seeing me for my birthday. Hilariously, my birthday's not actually occurring when they're visiting. It's going to be occurring the week after, but they're here to celebrate the fact that I'm still here, still kicking. So I want to spend as much time as I can with them. So, you know, forgive me, but we will get right back on our usual schedule the week after, aka my birthday week. In fact, looking things over, there will be a stream on my birthday, so that's going to be fun. But in any case, that is it for tonight. Again, thank you for dropping in and hanging out with me. If you happen to just be lurking, I do hope that today was an excellent vibe for you and that you got much done. If not, if you're just popping in, I do apologize. This is the end of the stream and we are saying our good nights. But I do hope that you drop in next week, next week, Friday the 12th. I do hope to see you around. Consider dropping in and saying hello. Until then, I wish you the best of luck on whatever you're working on. Just know that I love you and that I'm rooting for you. And be kind to yourselves. Don't run yourselves into the ground. And I will see you when I see you. Good night, everybody.